kid who swings a golf club like a dream. I'd like to try to qualify him for the U.S. Amateurs.
Coming to Apple TV Plus.
What's your name?
I'm not into older guys, but I'm flattered.
A new comedy series, Stick.
I don't want to go on this trip.
Your mouth's saying one thing, but those eyes are saying something else.
From the home of Ted Lasso.
This is your shot at redemption? This is your mulligan?
Owen Wilson.
This game takes and it takes. The game's finally giving me something back.
Stick.
You know Arnold Palmer?
Iced tea, lemonade, mix it.
I'm missing a nap for this.
Streaming June 4th on Apple TV Plus.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for this day.
After Zoomies at the dog park, it's time for Drive Up at Target. In goes a big bag of kibble and one squeaky chicken toy for the good boy. Drive Up that's ready when you are, only in the Target app. Just tap Target.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Sports are all about teamwork, and so is insurance. Whether you need an in-person or digital assist, State Farm is there to help you choose the right coverage for your home, car, and more. Get a game plan that helps fit your life and talk to State Farm today. State Farm with the assist. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability and eligibility vary by state.
Hello and welcome to Islanders Anxiety from Lighthouse Hockey and the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Dan Saracini. Joining me on this Sunday evening via Zencaster is my friend Michael Leboff. And Mike, we have finally heard from the new Islanders general manager, Mathieu Darche. He had his own press conference. He's actually already made some decisions. Some Islanders fans have already decided that the team is running in the wrong direction and this whole era has already been a failure. We'll get into that as we talk about the press conference and the moves. But where are you right now in the extremely early stages of the Mathieu Darche experience?
I am where I was when he was hired and where I was when they kind of whittled down to their short list with Bergevin, the new senior advisor to the Buffalo Sabres, Jarmo Kekalainen,
Right.
and Darche. I'm unmoved. Like I don't see any reason to go one way or another here. I think that when teams have these press conferences for whether it's an introduction of a head coach or a GM or something like that, was signaling a shift in the with a team. Generally, they get it right. Like I mean, I should walk that back a second. Most teams, almost the majority of them, get it right because they have time to prepare. They have professionals who are this is their job, is to make sure that we get in, we get out, we say a whole lot of stuff without saying anything at all. We take some pictures, we hold up a jersey. Everybody's well dressed, everybody's smiling. There's some free bagels in the lounge for the media afterwards, and we get out. And when I say most teams, because we have seen the Islanders, of course, make meals of situations like this. The one picture that comes to my mind is, of course, Ruslan Fedotenko, John Sim, Bill Garrett, and Mike Comrie in a bridge at the Westbury Hilton Gardens or whatever that was. We've seen some interesting pressers in hotel lobbies before.
I always think of the John Ledecky sitting next to Garth Snow and Doug Wade in that principal's office like atmosphere at the then new
right.
Northwell Health Ice Center.
Yeah, so I mean we've seen the Islanders, have issues with these before, but generally speaking, teams, and not just in hockey, any sports team, like this is what they pay communication staffers and consultants and crisis managers and all sorts of outside PR firms to get right. Like make sure that nobody spills their water on the dais and says that they want to win and they wish that Islander fans were playing hockey or were here to watch hockey tonight, not to see a press conference, and then we get out. And I think that's kind of what happened here, right? It was pretty milquetoast. As you said, there were some revelations. I wouldn't say anything was too stunning. But the parsing of taking a magnifying glass out of like Inspector Gadget to like go line by line of the team's press release when Darche was announced, and then going line by line by what do you think he really meant when he said this? When he said that they want to be competitive, he thought that this could be a playoff team, all this kind of stuff. And I know we promised that we wouldn't do another Master Leafs theater for a while or try to talk. We don't want to talk about the Maple Leafs all the time. I promise. That's a lie, but I do think that this is a ripple effect of how that team is covered, because that is the biggest media market in the sport. That's the most powerful kind of epicenter of the sport. And when they kind of set the quote unquote standard. I mean, heavy quote unquote standard of how you're supposed to cover something like this. Cause we've made, hours and hours of content out of going, reading off their media, going line by line through a press conference at the Ford Performance Center and being like, how come these guys are, all he's saying is they want to change the DNA of a team. That's a sports cliche. And they're like, now we got Chris Johnson being like, well, what does he mean by DNA? What is the subtle clue that Brad Treliving's trying to give us? And the answer is none. Like there's nothing. He's going to go up there. He's going to say every cliche in the book for a team that's in that specific situation. And he's going to get out of there. I think that's kind of what Mathieu Darche did. He did say on Long Island, which was a nice touch. He did mention Anthony Beauvillier right off the cuff and the beers and on the ice, which was a really nice touch. But outside of that, there's not much else that you can go through. He's not gonna go up there and be like, well, I plan on trading Ryan Pulock and getting that money off the books or anything like that. And he wasn't gonna come up there and be like, yeah, we're going full rebuild here. I'm to all the players who are wondering what the direction of the team is, if you're not on board for a rebuild, you better ask for a trade now. Like he's not going to do that. He's going to go up there. He's going to say, win one for the Gipper, and he's going to get the hell off. And for the Islanders, mission accomplished. Like there were no pictures of 4 very uninspiring free agents standing on a bridge in the middle of the Westbury Hilton Gardens. So I guess it's a rousing success. Yeah, for Mathieu Darche and the Islanders on how this press conference was handled.
Yeah, I'm with you. I felt it was a bit of a rousing success too, in the sense that it was just normal. Like it just wasn't. There wasn't really anything too crazy about it. He mentioned Anthony Beauvillier. He did say on Long Island. He talked about the garbage being thrown in that, and how the place was absolutely crazy when he scored that goal in Game 6 against the Lightning. I'd like that he said he was born in 76, also like myself, and his first memory was of the Islanders winning all the Stanley Cups because he had missed out on the Canadiens dynasty. Of course, as a Montreal native, you got to mention Mike Bossy and how he's a legend. So he hit all those right notes. He talked about community and building up, the fan base and doing stuff in the community, which again, all these guys always talk about and stuff like that. And just talked about wanting to. I have the thing here. He thanked Scott Malkin, John Ledecky, Sitting next to him, I should say, also was Mitt Romney. Oh, no, wait, sorry, it wasn't Mitt Romney. It was John Collins, the guy who actually did the search. I got very confused. I'm like, why is Mitt Romney sitting next to Mathieu Darche? Oh, wait, that's what John Collins looks like? I had absolutely no idea until just now. That's what he looked like. I was like, oh, okay, how about that? I had to rewind my brain for a second there. But, he talked about meeting Anders Lee and having called all the players. He talked to, we're going to get to Patrick Waugh in a minute, how he talked to just about everybody. He made a joke about learning everybody's names, which again is, kind of funny. Like it's par for the course. And it just seemed like a normal thing. He talked about playing with pace, playing fast. You got to win with defense. Like none of this stuff is really earth shattering in any way, shape, or form. Like he came off as a pretty sharp dude who knew how to have a press conference, and he was excited. He talked about like finding a place on Long Island. His wife and kids are there. He's got 2 sons, so we learned a little bit about that. He did talk about, and we're going to get into this too in a little bit, creating the winning environment from the AHL up. You got to be able to call players up during the year. That's just how it works. So all this stuff, and of course, finally, what a wonderful opportunity this is, and how he's very fortunate, and how he's this takes this very seriously, and he understands the gravity of being the general manager of the New York Islanders and all this stuff. So like all of it was fine, and I found myself being like, yeah, this is fine. To me, the most earth-shattering thing about the press conference was that it was being live streamed on the Islanders website and in their app, which is like, that tells you right there that we're in kind of a new world. It's not just like, a posted audio clip later, or, we read about it or something like that. This was streamed live on the Islanders website again, like, 31 other NHL teams would do. And the Islanders did that. And so that to me was the significant part of it. Everything he said was par for the course. And I mean, I'm not saying that to, kind of drag the guy down. I thought it was fine. I thought he did a good job.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you're going beyond that in either direction, like you could say, yeah, it was uninspiring, or it was, normal and good. I think if you're not coloring inside those lines, like you start coloring outside those lines, you're just you're like stretching for something you wanna, and that's fine, I guess. Like if you want to be like, he should have been more, he should have had more gusto, he should have been more direct or whatever. Like you go for it. But I just don't think that anyone anyone should take that bait. Like there's nothing else that you could have expected more or less, I think, out of a press conference from a professional sports team, which I know that for a very long time the Islanders were kind of on the borderline of that, but now they are firmly a professional sports team, and they have been for almost a decade now. Like the Islanders have been a professional sports team, so that's a pretty good streak for them. So if you're going for trying to hot take this thing, I think it's a little and I'm talking about like the general gist of the press conference. Of course, there were some things that he said that, absolutely, you can be opinionated about the coaches or the staff that's staying, the staff that's going, all that kind of stuff. But in terms of just like the general feel of it, it felt like, if you told me that Mathieu Darche, if like I had no idea what the New York Islanders were, like what the logo was, and you walked me in and you said, like, here, they set up this press conference, what do you think they're doing? I'm like, I don't know, is this like a health insurance company introducing a new CEO or something? Like maybe, and I think that is exactly what teams kind of want, because they don't want anything kind of crazy coming out of this stuff. They don't want to be made fun of, because unless you're announcing something, and if you are, it gets out beforehand. Like the Islanders were announcing that UBS Arena was going to start hovering off the ground, and like, and the Islanders would play a couple games in the atmosphere. You're not going to. It's not going to be a celebratory tone, really. It's going to be like a welcome, almost like a graduation ceremony, like calling Mathieu Darche across the stage, shake his hands, whatever. I did find it funny though that there was like a smattering of applause.
Yeah,
at the beginning, which was really
apparently they had invited some season ticket holders. I'm like, who was applauding?
I found that out after the fact too, and I was like, just imagining like the media contingent there clapping for John Collins or something. Right. But then I heard that it was season tickets holders. But I just thought it was so that was a reminder that the Islanders are still a little bit of the Islanders of old. That there was that, like, back in the 30 years ago, there would have been a counter protest. A bunch of people walking down, walking back Charles Lindbergh Boulevard, holding a sign, railing against the jersey redesign or something. But no, this is a new age, so it's just a smattering of applause, and that was probably the most off the cuff thing, and I'm sure that makes the Islanders staff and brass very happy that they were able to just get through, especially because as a lot of people have alluded to, the route they took to get to that podium at UBS Arena was certainly circuitous and did threaten to become the Islanders of the 90s and the aughts before that they were kind of snapped back into the 2024-25 Islander version, which is that they are still a professional sports team.
Yeah, despite all the effort that they've put into not looking like a professional sports team, they are. They manage to be one every once in a while, including last week. So we're going to dive into all of the things that actually did happen at this press conference, including the coaches and everything. And then in the second half, we're going to talk about the player decisions that were made by Mathieu Darche a little bit later, or I guess the day after the press conference. So we're going to get to all of that stuff. So reminder beforehand that we are on Patreon, patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. You get ad-free episodes, bonus podcasts, written posts, and a whole lot more. Sign up today. We have 2 tiers, and we do stuff all summer long. So don't think it's too late. Sign up at patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety if you want plenty of stuff from us all summer long about the Islanders and what they're doing. And it seems like Mathieu Darche didn't want to waste any time getting to doing stuff. And he announced actually quite early in that press conference that Patrick Roy would be back as the head coach. It came out later that, Roy still has like 3 years left on his contract. So, on one hand, we'll pause on Roy real quick. On one hand, keeping him obviously saves the owners the trouble of having to pay a guy for not working for them, which obviously would suck. But to me, it kind of signaled that, we're going to give this another try. We did hear about some differences in opinion between Roy and Lou Lamoriello last season. Lou being the general manager, giving the roster to Roy didn't really work. I've started saying months ago that I am kind of done with Roy because he was not coaching the roster that he was given. He was coaching for a different roster that he didn't have. And so in keeping Roy, my first thought was, I wonder if they had a conversation. It sounds like they've talked a couple of times. By the way, John McClain and Tommy Albaline will not be back. So Roy's back, Benoit Durocher is back, and then I guess we'll find a couple of assistant coaches, also I'm sure picked by Roy. I'm guessing that this means that Darche is going to try to build a roster more along the lines of what Roy wants. That was my reading of it. Whether your reading of it is purely financial, they don't want to fire the guy and pay somebody else. I guess Lane Lambert is off the hook now because he just got hired in Seattle, so they don't have to pay him. So they've been paying Roy, and Lou's contract is obviously up too, so they wouldn't be paying him either. But still, nobody wants to pay somebody for not working for them. So whether your feeling is purely for financial reasons or because Roy just needs the right players around him, it seemed to make a lot of sense. Like I wasn't not surprised that this guy didn't walk into a press conference on his first day and be like, I fired that bum Patrick Roy, I'm sure for Patrick, and they had never met. I thought that was kind of funny too, that Darche was like, I never met the guy before. The first time I met him was when I called him on the phone and introduced myself. So what did you make of Roy staying? Didn't sound like you really thought much of anything, but like to me, again, this was not surprising. Like, I don't know, people thought he was going to get fired. That seems kind of, that would have been surprising. Staying is not surprising.
Yeah, and I was wondering how long it would take for like someone to ask the question. I don't even know if it was a direct question. It was kind of just like part of a different question that he answered, because I think everyone was sort of on the same wavelength here that there were just too many things pointing to Roy coming back to expect otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, like certain, I think financially, absolutely, that definitely matters, and I also think that the situation that Roy had to endure with the Islanders was unique, right? Like he comes in mid-season and gets them into the playoffs with a roster that he really didn't have too much say in, obviously, because he wasn't involved until January. And then after that, the offseason, the Islanders really didn't change much at all, right? They bring in Duclair and Siplikov. It's still the it's still a Lou Lamoriello built
Sure.
built team, and then he still did I think a decent enough job considering the Islanders were able to hang around despite, I think we've done like the entire list of things that just completely were insane from the season. And I don't want to do it off the cuff, but Matt Barzal played 30 games. There was a time when the Islanders had like 4 different defensemen who joined the team in a game, who joined the team starting in January. It was just insane, right? Like it was just crazy. Varlamov was into the ether, and then he's back. Marcus Hogberg broke his finger after looking like Ken Dryden for his first couple of games, and he, so the point, you get the point. And so I don't think anyone in either direction can have like a firm grasp of the type of job the coach did last year. Plus, it became pretty clear on Thursday at this press conference that Lou Lamoriello probably hired his, couple capos to be the, Tommy I don't think Patrick Waugh was going to Switzerland to bring in Tommy Alberline, New Jersey Devils Stanley Cup winner,
right,
to be his assistant coach, and obviously McLean was already there. So I think that now he gets to. There's no excuses anymore, right? Like he gets to fill out his staff, he gets to have a team built more in his image, and etc. So the first thing that did cross my mind though was I don't know if you remember this, but when they hired Waugh, there was like this weird groundswell, like 12 hours afterwards, from different parts and folks who were in the media being like, well, the grand plan here is for Waugh to go upstairs and Benoit Desrosiers to become the head coach of the New York Islanders when Lou retires. and that, I think that's an important thing to remember, is that people will just take these things and then run with them with these narratives. And these will be people who have credibility and are paid to cover the sport. Right. And so those narratives become accepted, and everyone's like, "What the hell is he? He hasn't even coached a game yet. Like the Islanders play the Dallas Stars tomorrow. And you're making him the GM in 25-26, and he said no."
Waugh actually said, I didn't come here to be the GM. I came here to be the coach. I don't want to be the GM. Right. And people are like, yeah, okay, pal.
Yeah,
like,
okay. And just wait till he brings this guy Benoit in, because then you know that he's tipping his hand. So I think that those rumors, which should have been put to bed immediately, and the cops should have been called, can finally be put to bed. But I don't think the people who even brought those to light remember that they were the ones that did that. So, but yeah, so that was the first thing that crossed my mind. I'm like I've said all along, like I like that Patrick Waugh is a New York Islander. I think it's the novelty really. I thought it would maybe start to wear off. I don't think it has. Like it's funny to hear Mathieu Darche be like, yeah, I've never met Patrick Waugh before. And then in his head he's like, I can't believe, before he calls Patrick Waugh to introduce himself, he's like, I can't believe as a Montrealer, I'm about to call Patrick Waugh. Like that's so cool, and be his boss. I'm Patrick Waugh's boss. So I that is still cool to me. It's just, as I've said all along, like watching Chris Osgood play or Evgeny Nabokov play for the Islanders, it's going to take me forever to get my mind around seeing Patrick Waugh wear Islander stuff, and it will continue to do, and it'll take a long time still. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I think that the Abilene and McLean dismissals were, those were, throwing the fan base like, hey, you had one very, very easy decision to make, and you made the right decision there, I think. And so a step in the right direction to start, for him. And I'm excited to see who Patrick Waugh taps to. I hope they go full on French Canadian mafia behind the back. Like, you get the French Canadian GM, you get the French Canadian head coach who's a legend in Quebec, obviously, and then the Benoit Desrosiers from Quebec. We got to get a couple more guys back there, and then we'll have the French Canadian mafia. You'll have the Russian mafia with Romanov and Sliplikov, Sorokin, and Varley. We got a couple Swedes. The Swedish mafia continued to grow, or got stabilized, and of course, the Minnesota mafia has been around forever, but is dwindling. So it's such a what a fun team the Islanders have. It's like the 1980s Olympics.
Right. Well, remember we used to have the New England hockey mafia. That was
Yes,
one
yes,
that
the
started it
Maine,
all.
the Maine, the guys, everyone's from Cranford, Rhode Island, and went to the University of Maine.
But actually, you reminded me that I meant to mention this last time. But already with the French Canadian general manager and the French Canadian coach, I wonder if we need to start calling them Les Islanders du New York. I mean, if we're gonna, that's the way it's going to be from now on. But yeah, I would assume that Wa is going to hire. What's funny too is Adam Foote just got the job in the head coaching job in Vancouver because Rick Tocchet obviously left. He was the first guy I thought of, like, oh man, if he's available, and he's done apparently a great job with Quinn Hughes. How great, Patrick Waugh had Adam Foote in front of him all those years in Colorado. I'm sure they have a great relationship. Wouldn't that be great if they bring him in? But of course, he got the head job there. So who knows? I have no idea. But yeah, I mean, to me, the McLean Abilene decisions were basically, like you said, they were just layups. Like, it's just, we had the worst power play and the worst penalty kill for basically the entire season. I think they finished 31st in both. And really, you might as well be last at that point. So it's pretty easy. It's a pretty easy conversation for Darche to be like, hey, it's Mathieu Darche. I just got the job and I'm sorry, but we're going in another direction. Like, that's the easiest thing he could have possibly done. And the evidence is right there. It just failed. They were both massive failures and you guys were in charge of those. So goodbye. And the other, actually, Darche addressed this in the press conference and said the reason he fired them earlier, right away, to be blunt, was because it's essentially coach hiring season now, and he wanted to give those guys the best opportunity to find other jobs. And that sounds great. And I don't think he's a liar. I think he's probably right. But also, again, these were two layups. Like, let's be honest. these were not hard decisions, I think. Similarly, it was not a hard decision to decide to fire the entire coaching staff of the Bridgeport Islanders, who also were spectacular failures this year. Rick Kowalski gone. Who was the other? There was a couple of assistant coaches that I'm forgetting now. I'll find it on the Islanders website. One of whom I was like, oh wow, how about that? I didn't realize he was there. So like it was important to get these guys going. And on one hand, yes, it is sort of red meat for the fan base. Like, just kind of throw these guys, some throwing some. There's a word I'm missing here, but like, just throwing the red meat at the fan base. Be like, yeah, here's your pound of flesh. You got these guys fired. That being said, it is not a hard decision to fire the coaching staff of a team that wins 4 home games in an entire season, and again finishes in last place for the most part, and has been terrible for a long time. And I wonder if we all owe Brent Thompson a big apology, because we cast him as the villain all those years in Bridgeport, and it seems like the problems were a lot deeper than that. Darche talked about the importance of the AHL system being healthy. Again, calling up players throughout the course of the year is just how business is done. The Syracuse Crunch has been a great, source of players for the Lightning for years and years and years. Although lately, because Lightning have been winning, they haven't had a lot of high draft picks. So honestly, Syracuse has kind of come back down to earth a little bit. They're not, I think, graduating as many players as they used to, but still, that's the price of doing business. I mean, I'm sure they'll take the Stanley Cups, in light of a stronger AHL team. But one thing that was interesting, and I'm surprised we haven't heard more about this, was that Stacey Roast, who had been in charge of the Syracuse Crunch lately under Julian Brisebois in Tampa, is also out of a job. His contract, I think, ran out with the Lightning or whatever, or he left the Lightning, and immediately there was speculation that he would be joining Darche here on Long Island. We haven't seen that yet. Much like I remember Darche being a depth center on the Montreal Canadiens, I remember very well Stacey Roast being a depth center on the Red Wings for apparently a lot shorter period than I thought. It would be cool if he showed up here, but as of right now, we haven't heard anything. And so this was the other part that really needed to happen. It was not hard to get rid of these guys. I don't know where you find AHL coaches. And the other thing, too, is in terms of AHL coaches, they announced a development camp to be held over the summer, right after the draft, which is, again, a normal thing that most teams do, that the Islanders had stopped doing probably about 5 years ago. So that made people very happy, too. Yeah. With the assistant coaches, with the AHL team, I mean, I'm not going to ask your opinion. I'm sure it's the same as mine. Yeah, these guys stunk. Get them out of here. It was very, very simple. But like, how did you kind of read that? Was it just sort of like, yeah, okay, fine? Or did it seem like this was kind of, a step in a right direction, or did you start thinking about guys to bring in, things like that?
I don't think Matt, because the roster is, it's not set in stone, but there's a lot of holdovers on the roster. There's also a lot of holdovers. Or the head coach is staying, so that's another holdover. One of the assistant coaches staying, because I'm sure that Patrick Waugh said like, yep, well, Matthew, if you didn't know that the master plan here is for me to take your job and for Benny to be the head coach. So he didn't, obviously Watt made sure that DeRoche stayed. So he had to kind of, I don't know, come in and make his initial stamp on the franchise, I think. And these, like we said, were pretty easy decisions to make. I think the assistant coach you were thinking of that was like, oh, wow, I can't believe this guy's a Bridgeport Sound Tiger assistant is Pascal Rayum.
Yes,
Rayum?
Pascal Rayum. Yes.
Rayum, yeah. He's
right.
Who's around, but
another depth center I remember very well.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And so one bit of the French Canadian Mafia go, but I'm assuming that the Bridgeport staff will be all bilingual in French and English. Did you know that Joanne Holloway? I'm assuming that it's Joanne Holloway's son was an assistant coach for Bridgeport for a couple seasons.
I did not know that.
Yeah, there's
he was not now.
No.
Okay.
This was from 2012 to 2015.
Wow.
First with for Scott Pellerin and then for Brent Thompson, and
interesting.
He served 3 years as the assistant coach with Eric Boganicki. It was Eric Boganicki and Doug Holloway. Garth Snow was the GM of the time, obviously. So I wonder if he was just like, that we can put Doug in charge.
As surprised as I was that Rayum was on the Bridgeport staff, I was equally as surprised that Boganicki is not on the Bridgeport staff. When they were like, oh, they fired a bunch of the coaches in Bridgeport, I was like, oh, so Boganicki was one of them? And I was like, wait, no, he's not there anymore. What?
No. Yeah, now it's a chance for them just to bring a couple of French Canadians with alongside Waugh and DeRoche, and then in Bridgeport. I'm going to throw out a couple names here that maybe will work. Mathieu Dandino. I mean, who knows if these guys are in coaching at all?
Right.
But I'm just thinking of some Canadians off the top of my head. Guillaume Latendresse.
Are you just going to name old Canadians players?
Old Canadian players who, yeah, exactly. And then of course we can also. I would love to see Patrick Waugh tap Sheldon Surrey to come.
Oh my god.
To come down and be an assistant coach at either on the. I mean, you want to get the power play sorted. You just throw Surrey out there.
Yeah.
He doesn't have. He doesn't. But what I'm saying is that I want more. I just want more French Canadians around.
I think Sheldon Surrey might still be being paid by the Oilers. I think didn't he take like a big buyout or something?
Yeah.
I feel like he's still raking in some oil money.
And I think he's part of that. Speaking of mafias, there is like a crew in Manhattan Beach, California.
Right. Yeah.
It's like Chris Chelios,
right.
John C. McGinley, the actor from Scrubs who played Dr. Cox.
Yeah, of course.
John Cusack, I think. Maybe not
sounds
is
about
Cusack
right.
part of it, but like they call themselves, and I think Sheldon Surrey is part of it. They call themselves like the Manhattan Beach Mafia. They're just like known rabble rousers around that bar scene, and
right.
It's like a group of like actors and former hockey players.
Because he was married to an actress named Angelica Bridges, who was on Baywatch for a long time. So they're not married anymore, but yeah.
So yeah, that lot of mafias all over the place.
Right.
And I mean, we're forgetting that the Islanders do have several French Canadian players too, right? Like JG Pajot is Duclair. I guess only two, but
well, actually, but I'm glad you brought up Duclair because I want to pause on this for a second. So people were ready to kind of like assume Duclair wanted off the team because of what happened towards the end of the season. He wasn't playing well. Obviously, he had a shitty injury-plagued season. He comes back probably too early. He's absolutely completely ineffective. And he takes a leave of absence from the team and was like, yeah, he wasn't giving us enough. Or I forget what his actual thing was, but it was like he was the one guy that Waugh called out all season was Duclair, the guy who was hurt the entire time and not playing well, obviously. And people kind of assume that, with Waugh coming back, Duclair's not going to want to come back. He's going to ask for a trade. This means the end. I don't see this at all. Like, am I wrong, or is Waugh half of the reason that Duclair is here in the first place? Like he he played with this under this guy in junior. If anybody knows how Waugh is and his, possibility of getting called out publicly, what that possibility is under Waugh, it's going to be Duclair. And I mean, I don't think Waugh doesn't know that he was hurt the whole time. So I didn't see this at all. I think they're both going to basically get like fresh starts. Now, of course, Duclair tomorrow on Monday could be like, "Well, I want out of here," and like, okay, well, whatever. But I don't know. I just didn't see it that way. Again, it seems like people kind of making stuff up out of whole cloth because it just seemed like, well, obviously the guy doesn't want to play here. Yeah, but he signed here to play under Waugh. Why would he all of a sudden be like, I can't believe this guy said this to me? He's probably heard Waugh say 100 times things that were 1,000,000 times worse than that to guys. So I don't know. I don't know. You have any thought on that? Like the Duclair Waugh situation now going forward, now that we know Waugh is back. I mean, I feel like Duclair's going to be back too. Like you got to get healthy. That's the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, I would be shocked if he's not
right.
And yeah, I think it's pretty standard. Not standard. I should say pretty. It was pretty straightforward. I feel like with what happened.
Right.
He was hurt, wasn't playing well. Coach was like, the season was over. Coach was like, you're not playing well. Player was like, all right, can I just go home early? Then it's just I'm not in the right frame of mind. Sure.
Right.
And that was that. Like I don't think, and I frankly like it was probably the right decision for everyone. Give the guy an extended off season, get him away from the situation that was becoming kind of ornery, and
right.
start anew in September. And the funniest part about this weird thing that popped up was that Duclair said from the beginning that the reason he wanted to come to the Islanders on this contract was, well, it's like a long-term deal, at least relative to the rest of his career. So the guy who's like been craving for stability and to be in the same place for more than a season and a half is going to be like, oh, well, no, now I want out because of, because of this what happened.
Also true. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be shocked if, I mean, I would be shocked if that's not what ends up happening here.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. You're 100% right. So we are in agreement. One name I am going to throw out to you though, as we wrap up the coaching situation here is because I was thinking to myself, well, geez, I wonder who could come in. And I'm just throwing this name out there. Obviously, I have absolutely no idea, but you know how, again, these doors open and you end up falling down the rabbit hole. And a couple of years ago, there was a hot name in the coaching community, and it was a guy named Benoit Groulx, spelled Groulx, another French-Canadian guy. He's from Hull in Quebec. And if that name sounds familiar, he came up in a couple of coaching searches, one with the Coyotes, I believe once with the Ducks as well. And he is currently coaching in the KHL. He's currently coaching Tractor, but Benoit Groulx, for a number of years, coached the Syracuse Crunch. In fact, he is the winningest coach in the history of the Syracuse Crunch and has a great track record with AHL teams. And just, again, falling down the rabbit hole, I was like, wait a minute, what if, that's a guy who I can see the Islanders bringing in. Obviously, I have no idea what his situation is like in the KHL right now, but their season is over. I could see the Islanders bringing in Benoit Groulx back to the AHL. I don't know if Darche and he coincided particularly at the Lightning and their Lightning organization with Syracuse because he got his job in 2016. I guess he was the coach there from 2016 to 2019. So, it was 2021. I think was when he was the coach there in Syracuse. So I'm just saying Benoit Groulx, maybe a name we want to keep an eye on, and we'll see what happens. But honestly, they got to fix things in the AHL, and Darche talking about wanting to fix things, got people kind of hot and bothered and like, oh, thank God, finally somebody's acknowledging that the AHL situation is not good. However, and this is where we start to see the fissure happening here. One name we didn't hear at this press conference was that of Chris Lamoriello, who was the assistant GM, obviously Lou's son, and was basically in charge of the Bridgeport operation. Now, Chris is the guy who found Hudson Fasching, I think a couple of other guys as well, but that's not enough to wipe away the stink of the Bridgeport Islanders all these years. And people wanted him to be fired, and they wanted him out of there, and they didn't hear his name come up at all. Nobody asked any questions about him at the press conference. People were like, oh, they're too cowardly to ask any questions. Okay, or maybe they just had 50 minutes and they asked a bunch of other questions. Like, we'll get there. Again, the guy's been on the job for a week and a half. A couple of days later, though, an NHL writer named Andy Strickland, who works out of St. Louis, put out a tweet saying that he had heard through sources that Chris Lamoriello and assistant GM Steve Pellegrini were actually given contract extensions before Lou left his office, or was, told that he wasn't going to be re-signed, which of course sent everybody into a tizzy because they were like, oh my God, how is Chris coming back? This is terrible. You can't have this. And this is where people started to kind of jump off the Darche train already, because he hadn't, lopped this man's head off like Highlander at center ice at UBS Arena. I don't know what to make of this situation. I don't know if Andy Strickland's sources are right. They might announce nothing. They might maybe reassign Chris Lamoriello. I can see that happening. Or they could just say nothing and just move on. And next thing you know, it's October and they're playing and Chris Lamoriello is still here. I don't even know what to even ask, but like, I'm sure you heard about this and you saw the tweet. Actually, I think you shared the tweet with me. So like, what did you make of that tweet? What did you think about it? Again, I'm not going to destroy Darche about this. He's been on the job for a week and a half. He probably doesn't even know Chris Lamoriello from a hole in the wall. But he said that they're going to evaluate the entire operation and make changes from there. So there's still time for a change to be made there. But at first glance, this was sort of the first crack in the Darche press conference, which is like, wait, what about this guy we all hate, who's still apparently here?
Yeah, get him out of here.
Right.
Make Neil Smith look like
Right.
Bill Torrey, right? Yeah, I don't know. I got nothing to make from it because I don't really think there's anything to make out of it yet, right? Like,
right.
I think it's pretty clear that they're pretty committed to changing everything in Bridgeport. New staff, as they've said, they made it a point to be like, we gotta clean that up for a little bit, not for a little bit, clean that up right away, and that likely means that even if Chris Lamoriello sticks around, I don't think that he's going to be in charge of the Bridgeport Sound Tigers, or excuse me, the Bridgeport Islanders. Hell, maybe they'll go back to the Sound Tigers name. Because like I just don't think that's that'd be my guess, at least, that he's not, and he's just going to be around because he's an experienced hockey executive and be one of those kind of just guys who's, hey, can you go check out this prospect, make sure that this prospect is doing his conditioning stuff off the ice in Gatineau, that kind of stuff that the assistant GM does. Maybe, I don't know, but
I could totally see him being like a pro scout or something like that, head of pro scout, whatever,
Yeah, and so I don't know. I once I saw that tweet come across from Andy Strickland, though, I was like, oh boy. No, I don't think you'll ever see a fan base get as frothed up over an assistant GM keeping his job than the Islanders than Chris Lamoriello. Right. Steve Pellegrini, is that what it is? Pellegrino?
Yes. Pellegrini, yeah.
He must be thanking his lucky stars that Chris is the other guy. I mean,
right.
People had opinions on him keeping Pellegrini too, which was pretty funny, I thought. Because I mean, these are assistant GMs. I'm not too concerned about it. It's like being mad about who's lining up third line left wing for the Sound Tigers on like a nightly basis for me, which is just not in my purview as a fan. Yeah. But I do think that fans were hoping for like kind of a clean rip from there was a contingent of fans, I should say, that were hoping for a clean rip from the Lamoriello era, and this is almost a half measure. So that makes it a little disappointing for them. But it's just not something that's going to bother me at all. Like I'm just waiting. Let's see what happens June 27th, which is slowly approaching, and then July 1st and beyond before we start to be like, this is a disaster, because Chris Lamoriello is still getting his paychecks from Scott Malkin.
Yeah, it's true. And also don't forget too, A, Darche has been here for a week and a half. B, the draft combine starts this week. And so Darche has other things to worry about, including having that first overall pick, which I guess we'll wrap up this first half by saying he did mention it. He said he'd rather have the first overall pick. If somebody wants to trade it, they'd have to knock his socks off, and with a big deal. You just take the best player available, which signals Matthew Schaefer. Didn't seem to, indicate anything regarding James Higgins. There was an article, I don't want to forget, In Newsday this week, written by Colin Stevenson, who I spoke with for Weird Islanders podcast this season, about James Higgins, the Higgins family, and everything. And at the end, there was a part, and again, and I don't want to reopen this, but we talked about Schaefer. If he's that good, fine, take him, and we'll wish James Higgins the best. But at the end, there was a part that really got me, where Stevenson wrote that the Higgins is they love the Islanders, they grew up with the Islanders, James loves the Islanders, but they're ready to. They know it's a business, they know how it works. You can only be taken by one team, and if it's not them, okay, then they're prepared to become huge fans of whatever team takes James in the draft. And I was like, it said that they're hoping it's the Islanders, but they're prepared to become big fans of whatever team takes James, which again is totally normal. That is the absolute normal. That we've seen this a million times. How many parents have we seen in the stands wearing the Islanders shit? Meanwhile, they're from Toronto or Montreal or Vancouver or whatever. Like, and all of a sudden they're big Islanders fans. So we've seen this a million times, but seeing that in print really made me go, I guess it's real. But that being said, they are pretty realistic about it. They're not banging their shoes on a table like, you got to take James Higgins. So we'll see what happens. But
and the combine coming up, I think, will be a big kind of, I don't know, like people will start talking about the draft again. Like, there's that like week after the lottery happens, everyone kind of goes crazy. Then it kind of simmers, and then it happens again at the combine. I will say though, it does seem that a lot of folks are starting to be like, well, he is really good. Like, like this is it. It's maybe. Right. I can't remember. Someone had a really good line. And I want to credit Chris Peters, because I think it was him, where he said that he's thinks that Matthew Schaefer is the best prospect right now, but he's almost certain that there will be a player in this draft that's better than Matthew Schaefer. Just because the way that his ceiling, I guess, as a prospect compared to like other number one overall picks, like whereas with Celebrini or with McDavid or whatever, like you'd be really shocked if somebody surpasses one of those. And with this one, there's when you think about it, it's Matthew Schaefer versus the field, and the field is 230 other players. I think that's just a really good way to just remember this entire endeavor of drafting 18-year-olds, is that it's more likely than not that somebody that's drafted behind whoever goes number one overall is more likely. There's likely to be a better player in the draft. So that was just another thing, and it does seem like I think it was Corey Pronman who's like been the most wishy-washy person when it comes to this draft. It was like, well, my comp for James Higgins is William Nylander. It's like, well, okay, that sounds good. I'll take the Long Island William. Like, right? Yeah. It's just hilarious how this is. This is going to go. It's only going to get more. I know. The fangs are only going to come out even more as we get this Stanley Cup done, and then it's just draft time.
Now that they've hired Darche, I'm ready to fast forward to the draft. Like, I'm ready to just get there. Like, I can watch the Stanley Cup final on fast forward, get there, and be done with it. And just kind of answer all these questions.
We'll pause it for a second so that you can see, Guillaume Latendresse get hired first, and then you can start fast forwarding again.
Right. Yeah. Okay. It's like if you ever watch a movie on cable, they have to squeeze the credits in before the next movie. So they run them like super duper fast, so you can see it. So just give me a super fast scroll of all the French Canadian guys that the Islanders are going to hire. And like, okay, we're good. Here we are at the draft. Now the next Avengers movie is starting on TBS. Okay, great. I'm all set. So so that's where we're at following the Darche press conference. Again, a lot of news. None of it surprising. I think I'm still good. I'm not ready to throw the guy overboard, but I'm not ready to build a statue to him either. I think he did a good job. And, and by the way, for the record, the calling of these season ticket holders was Mathieu Darche's idea. That comes from John Collins himself. Oh, and that's another thing too, real quick, is that I love the Islanders are actually using social media now, and they're putting out stuff, and they're showing like him walking through the arena. He's at Isles Lab saying, hey, can I buy this now? Like, I think you're allowed to get this stuff. You don't have to pay $1,300 for a sweater. Oh, really?
It made me mad for one reason.
That made you mad?
No, I'll tell you what made me mad. Like, that's not what made me mad. What made me mad was that we had a chance to watch that kind of B-roll of Lou Lamoriello just walking around.
Yeah.
and Lou robbed us of that. And
Yeah.
and I've been a big fan of the code of silence and the media blackout because it just
Right.
is part of his character. But when I saw like them just like kept the social media kept just putting up pictures of their new GM like walking in a hallway or
Right.
walking into Isles Lab, I was just like, oh my God, can you imagine if we got? I
Oh my
mean,
God.
we got somebody uploaded a video of Lou smoking a cigar with John Collins in Eisenhower Park, and it was amazing because he's
It
like,
went nuts. Yeah.
yeah, he looks like a mob boss. I was like, can you imagine if we caught Lou just like walking out of his office to go use like the restroom or something, just like in between the in between, we got to see
That's
him
true.
shuffle that down the hallway with all that Lou Lamoriello aura. So that's what made me mad. I'm not mad that it's happening. I'm mad that we never got to see the B-roll.
That's a
there's
good
a
point.
lot of Lou Gold on the cutting room floor, I'm sure.
Seriously. You're telling me this hat is how much? Well, we have other hats here. Yeah, but this hat, that's too much for a hat.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
and
That is too
you better not be wearing a hat inside the building,
Yeah.
or do you hat off at the dinner table.
Yeah. Right. If I catch any of you wearing a hat in this arena, you're fired. Anyway, okay, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about some player movement that Mathieu Darche initiated in his first week with the Islanders as well. And it's a little bit of a longer discussion. So meet us on the other side. Thanks. And now a word from our sponsors. First is always VintageIceHockey.com, where you can get t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, and more featuring over 100 classic hockey logos. Vintage Ice Hockey now carries a full line of Islanders Anxiety merch featuring our blue and orange brain logo, as well as our Al Arbor and the Island shirts. And as always, our portion of the sales go directly to the Center for Dementia Research. That is VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. They offer a Rosé, a Pinot Grigio, and a Pinot Noir that was named a Top 100 Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. All are delicious, priced at less than $15 a bottle, and available at local wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com. Please drink responsibly.
Finding a new job is stressful. But with Indeed, it doesn't have to be. Just fill out your Indeed profile with your skills, experience, and desired salary. The more you fill out, the better your matches will be. And hearing from hiring managers will be 2 times more likely. Relax. That's your Indeed profile sending opportunities your way. Indeed, the world can work better.
Switch to Verizon Business and get more from your internet without paying more for your internet. Get LTE Business Internet starting at $39 a month when paired with select business mobile plans. That's unlimited data, and with it, unlimited possibilities. Start saving today with Verizon Business, ranked #1 in small business internet customer satisfaction by J.D. Power. Starting price for 25 megabits per second LTE internet plan with smartphone plan savings, plus taxes, fees, and economic adjustment charge. Terms apply. For J.D. Power 2024 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
You're the perfect blend of elegance and style, and your ride should be no different. The 2024 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid meets all your needs, from business to brunch and everywhere in between. With head-turning details like a sleek front end, plus stylish interior, and an available 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster and seamless tech integration. Okay, Hyundai. Visit HyundaiUSA.com to learn more about the new 2024 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid.
Jif peanut butter. It's that Jiffing good, it doesn't really need advertising. So instead, enjoy the calming sounds of the ocean. Jif. Ooh, it's that Jiffing good. Get your Jif at Jif.com.
At the UPS Store, we want to make this summer the summer of shipping. Summer Shipalooza. So you can start crossing items off your must-ship list. Like the vintage film camera your college kid needs for class. Or the vase you told your mom you would send her ages ago. And with our pack and ship guarantee, your items arrive safe or we reimburse you. So stop by your local store today for everything you need to be unstoppable. Visit the upsstore.com/guarantee for full details. Available at participating locations. Most locations are independently owned. Product, services, pricing, and hours of operation may vary. See Center for details. The UPS Store. Be unstoppable.
So before we get into the player decisions that Mathieu Darche has already made, real quick calendar stuff. This is our only episode for this week, barring any other big news or something. We won't have an episode next week. It will be a new episode of Weird Islanders, the podcast. We put out an episode of Weird Islanders on Friday with our friend Ryan from Skates at the Stakes. I'm going to listen to their latest episode on my way to work on Monday. And we talked about the one and only James Wisniewski, a man who was only an Islander for a few months, and boy, was it eventful. There was a lot going on, including angry nurses and suspensions and all kinds of crazy shit. We packed a lot into that episode, so check it out. It was a lot of fun. That came out on Friday. So yeah, this is it for us. Next Friday on the 13th will be our next episode of Weird Islanders, the podcast, which, by the way, is our longest episode ever. Absolute supersized episode. You'll see why when it comes out. We talked about a lot of players in that one because we're celebrating an anniversary. So check that out then. In between, next week, I'm going to put out something special for the subscribers on the main feed. Mike and I did a Country Club Atmosphere episode a couple months ago about conventions, fan conventions, I should say, one of which was Francesicon, which he was one of the main organizers of, and one of them was a Comic-Con that I had gone to recently at that point that I was actually managed to finalize a collection that I had been building for my entire life. So that's going to come out on the main feed on Monday the 9th. So it's a little bit of a bonus there. And if you like what you hear, sign up at the Patreon. You can get every Country Club Atmosphere episode. So that's it for the next couple of weeks. And then our next anxiety episode will be recorded on the 16th, on Monday the 16th, day after Father's Day. And then it'll come out on the 17th. Okay. Now that that's out of the way, a couple of days after that press conference, we heard that the Islanders had re-signed a couple of their players, one of which was Kyle Palmieri, who signed a 2-year contract worth $4.75 million a year. He has a full no trade clause in the first year, which is next year, and then a modified no movement clause. No movement clause, and then it was a no trade clause the first year, and then a modified no movement clause the next year. He has a 16-team no trade list. We'll get into that in a minute. They also re-signed defenseman Adam Boqvist to a 1-year, $850,000 contract. He's an RFA at the end of it, so he might not be going anywhere anytime soon. But Boqvist came in off waivers, played pretty well in the little spots they gave him, whether it was defense or forward. We'll get into that. And these two deals were both basically already agreed to under Lou Lamoriello. These are probably the final two Lou drawer deals that I guess Darche looked at and decided to sign off on as the new general manager. And I was actually kind of surprised at the reaction to the Palmieri deal because I think there were some people that were like, "Oh my God, why are we doing this? This is dumb. He's 34. He's going to be 35 next year." But I think a lot of people were supportive of this. $4.75 million for 2 years is not a lot. We were all kind of resigned to Palmieri coming back for a couple of years. I believe he had 30 goals last year, didn't he? Which, if he did that again for that money, he had 24 goals last year. He had 30 goals the year before. So, I mean, heck, if he does another 24 goal season, 4.75, that's actually not bad. What were your impressions of, let's start with Palmieri. What was your first thought when you saw that Palmieri deal come in? Were you like, oh my God, why are we doing this? Or were you like, you know what? That's actually not that bad.
To tell you the truth, my first thought was I was really excited because when I saw the AAV was 4.75, I was like, I had heard for a couple days that from one James Myrtle that the Leafs were going to be able to sign a particular free agent for $4.2 million, maybe AAV next year. On a sweetheart deal. Right. And I was like, yeah, imagine that guy's agent going in and then being like, hey, what about $4.2 million? And then that agent goes, the Islanders just gave Kyle Palmieri $4.75. And all due respect to Kyle, as we said, 30 goal scorer last year. And I think just like a solid middle of the lineup player. I think that you should probably be asking for the Kyle Palmieri plus deal if you're that particular player. Because I'm screwed up, that was my first thought. My second thought was, I think it's just like a kind of an appropriate, almost like the press conference, right? Like wasn't wrong in either direction. It looks like Palmieri was 24 goals last year. So I think he scored 30 the year before.
Yes, that's what I said.
Yeah. Right. So, and this is a guy who's, if he's played 82 games the past 2 seasons, if he gives you close to that again, you can pencil him in for 20 plus, I think, and feel pretty good about it. He can play up and down the lineup. His game defensively where you want it to be. No, but that's not really who he's supposed to be anyways. He's there to finish, and I don't know. I think it's fine, and the Islanders need help on right wing, right? Like they can't go into next season with with Kyle Palmieri and like Simon Holmstrom, and behind those guys right now, I think it'd be Hudson Fasching and Mark Gacom. Like they need help. Like they need help, and then you look. So you say, okay, well that's with Holmstrom and Palmieri, you probably have ideally your number 2 and number 3 right wingers, and or in a pinch 1 and 2. Depending on where Barzal ends up playing, I guess as well. Like, is he going to go back to center? Who knows?
You have Siplikov, I guess, too. Also
Siplikov could play over there as well. But then you have, and then when you look at the free agents, and you're like, okay, would you rather give Kyle Palmieri 4.75 or go with some? And when you know who Kyle Palmieri is, and you know he likes it here, and you know that he's what he isn't as a player. Like the Islanders, to steal a phrase from a famous podcaster, nobody knows him better than the Islanders, right? So like, would you rather go out and spend that exact same cap hit, because you probably would have to to get someone to like replace that kind of production on an unknown quantity? I don't think the answer is yes. So, and it's a 2-year deal too, so it like lines up pretty well with what the Islanders are trying to do here, because you get Palmieri in there. I don't think we're not going to see Yzerman next year, so he can hold that seat until he's ready. So it's just like a very sensible thing, I think.
Yeah, I think sensible is the right word. Again, the cap is going up. I don't think 4.75 is really that bad. And you just phrased it exactly what I was going to say. This is very much like a devil you know versus the devil you don't scenario. Like, they know Kyle Palmieri. If he can score anywhere between 20 and 30 goals for that amount of money, that's great. If he scores 20, well, that's a pretty good deal. If he scores 30 for this amount, that's a great deal. know? And like you said, it's also just 2 years. So he has a full no trade, no movement, actually full no movement clause. I can't remember that. Full no movement clause for next year, which means he ain't going anywhere. And for a guy with young kids, that's perfect. He knows where he's going to play next year. The next year, he has a 16-team no-trade clause, and basically that leaves half the league for him to get traded to. So in the event that the Islanders suck and they're not going anywhere, they can find a contender to trade him to, and at that point, he'll be 36, 37 years old, and I wouldn't be surprised if he just called it a career. He gets one more shot at the cup, and then he calls it a career. I would not be surprised if he did it. And then you know what's going to happen? He's going to move right back to Long Island, and he's going to be on the Iceworks shadow team on the right wing of Alexei Yashin, right? Like it'll be Yashin, Palmieri, and Asham on the Aaron Asham on the other side, right? So, so I feel like to me it's fine, and I mean Palmieri loves it, and also, and people have pointed this out. I'm not the first person to say this, and it's 100% true. Don't forget, with no Lou Lamoriello, we are not just getting Kyle Palmieri. We are going to get bearded Kyle Palmieri all year long. So that means instantaneous 30 goals. Like that's the way. That's when he's at his best. And so I'm looking forward to a very hairy Italian man scoring goals for the Islanders. Now, that being said, I have been critical of Palmieri, I think more than most. He does go into these funks for months. Again, much like Jordan Eberle before him, much like Josh Bailey before him, much like Michael Grabner in, a previous era, much like Anthony Beauvillier. They always seem to have a guy who disappears for a month and a half. And then he ends up with good numbers and you're like, oh, that was a pretty good season. But, you forget the parts where you were pulling your hair out because he wasn't scoring any goals and wasn't getting his shots and whatever. So you just sort of take that part with Palmieri, but hopefully the security of knowing he's going to be here next season, doesn't have to worry about anything. He can come out and have a good season. And again, for 4 points, there are guys in this league making way more than 4.75 and are way worse than Kyle Palmieri. Like I'm not going to go through them, but I'm sure we can find a few. But to me, this was fine. I had no problem with it at all. Same with Boqvist. Like, listen, I can't imagine anybody out there has a strong opinion of Adam Boqvist either way. But to me, the first thing I thought of when I saw this deal was, and this is totally anecdotal, but I feel like a guy who gets picked up off of waivers comes into a team. He has no idea has absolutely no connection to anybody on the team, has no idea what's going on here, shows up, and within, the first couple of months he's here, is okay playing both forward and defense, probably goes a long way, right? Like that's probably goes over pretty big in the room with the coaching staff. Like, yeah, man, you want me to play forward? I'll play forward. That's cool, whatever. And
Center,
he might not have liked it.
Not even like wing. Like he played center one night.
Yeah. And he might not have liked it, but he did. I don't even know if he liked it, but he did it. And I think that kind of stuff goes a long way. And he's only 24 years old. Like I think that, there's a lot. So I was totally cool with Boqvist. To me, that's like a no-brainer too.
Yeah, and it's $850,000.
Right.
Who cares? If it doesn't work, it's easy to waive, get rid of. He becomes a weird Islander. But yeah, I mean, it's I think in very different ways they're both exactly what I'd expect if most people to say, like if you polled every Islander fan to say, okay, the Islanders are signing Anna Boqvist and they're signing Kyle Palmieri, like what is the most appropriate deal realistically? We're not trying to ask you what you would sign him for. What like, what do you think they land? And I think everyone, honestly, Boqvist probably comes in a little shorter than that, but Palmieri is like dead on. And so I see no problem. I'm excited about him. The Islanders haven't had a defenseman like this, I don't think, in a while. That has been a guy that they he's a top 10 pick from his year, right? So still in his prime. So he's got the pedigree, he's got the kind of flashy skill set, he's got the hair. When's the last time the Islanders have had a defenseman like that? I can't really think of one, especially throw in that he's Swedish. I'm really having a tough time thinking of one because I mean I don't think they've had one in maybe a decade or so. And he's of the Islanders defenseman, I think he is the highest drafted player on the blue line.
I believe that.
Yeah, I actually think he might be the highest drafted player on this entire team because Dobson was 12 or 13 overall.
I think he was 11, wasn't he, Dobson?
Yeah, he was 11, and Boqvist I think came in at 8 overall. In 2018. Yeah, 8th overall in 2018, right? So Boqvist is the 8th overall pick. Horvat was 9? Or something like that. And you look up, there aren't any other. The Islanders, if you remember, a few years ago, like the Islanders were like littered with first round picks, former first round picks, like when Leddy was there, etc. But yeah, I don't think anyone else on this team was drafted before higher than 8th. So he is the player with the highest draft pedigree on this team, I think.
Which tells you all you need to know about the draft. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, and right. And what's great is that they're going to draft first overall, so that he will get supplanted by whatever October 5th. But for now, he is the top pick on this team, unless Horvat was picked before 8th, but I thought he was 9.
I'm almost certain. Hold on, I got it up here, but I'm almost certain he was 9th because they were 9th because they had that pick. That was the Devils pick.
Yes. So
that's funny.
Yeah. So Anna Boqvist, the blue chipper, on the blue line, making $850,
and maybe not even playing on the blue line, maybe even playing forward. You never have no idea, but yeah, no, I think you put it right. Like if you polled people, like, well, what do you think? I think most people would probably be like, yeah, I could see Boqvist making $750 and Palmieri making maybe 4.5. So they came out a scotch higher than that, and I think that's probably fine. And I think, for Palmieri, it's funny you mentioned another player who people want to see taking a hometown discount. I think Palmieri took probably a bit of a hometown discount. I bet he could have gotten a little bit more had he gone someplace else. But don't bear in mind, Palmieri also wasn't making $11 million last season. What was he making last season?
I think he was making 5. Yeah.
Okay. So it's a little bit of a hometown discount.
Right.
So
yeah, I think it's exactly like, and he, I think what I would say is, he would either gotten, a 2-year deal with maybe a little bit more money or a 3-year deal somewhere if he hit the free agency. But teams need someone who can just plug in. You can just plug in and be like, you're going to score 20, 25, 30 goals for us. Yep. Okay, great. That's a huge commodity to have. And this team is, the blue line and the the blue line feels close to being set, and at least in terms of like personnel. I mean, you'd hope that Darche really, really, really considers trying to find a way to get one of the either one of Mayfield or Mayfield or Pulock off, because they're just kind of redundant at this point.
Yeah.
But you feel like the blue line, kind of know who's coming back. The forwards, it's a little bit more of a guessing game.
Yeah.
Because you look at the bottom six, right? Like Martin's not coming back. Fashing, you'd assume, isn't coming back. You don't know what's going to happen, how this guy's going to feel about Pierre Engvall and his 7-year deal. Like Kyle McLean, who knows? Like at this point, like what if he's going to be back? So you'd wonder if you'd hope that Darche and like the regime sees just a lot of value in knowing at least one spot, right? Being like, we can write this one in. Right. We know what to expect, and I do hope that those contracts were physically in the drawer. and he went into Lou's mahogany old desk and opened it up. I was like, hey, what are these papers here? And
I was gonna say,
someone's like, I don't know, like, what was it? He's like, oh, it's the standard player contract for Kyle Palmieri.
It's funnier if he didn't know they were there, and he's in the room, and he's like, oh, where am I gonna put my pens? Oh, what are these contracts doing here? Oh, wow, okay. But yeah, who knows? Who knows? We don't know. We don't know if Lou is still hanging around. And so I signed these contracts for them. Like, I don't even know. So
and if in all seriousness, if those were, because we as you said, like these were the Lou's draw deals, and then everyone's like, oh man, I wonder if those are still kind of going to be honored because Lou's not in the picture anymore. If that is truly what happened, that Lou's told these guys, hey, I got, we're good. We'll announce it in a little bit. And then Darche comes in and was like, I'm going to still honor these deals. That should go over really well with the rest of the group too. Like at least that's like an honorable thing. And the guys who are still here are going to be like, well, he did look after these guys. So at least he honored Lou's word, or word between Lou and Kyle Palmieri's agent and Anna Boquist's agent. So that should be a step in the right direction in that realm.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Like there's at 100%. Like the guys are going to look at that and be like, wow, that's pretty cool. Cause he could have just said, nope, I'm the guy in charge. Right. So see you guys later. But he didn't. Like he honored those contracts. And I think it's safe to say that Palms is probably a huge guy in the room. Like I think players like him. And so, I mean, he's ingratiated. I mean, again, we talk about this all the time. The thing about this era of Islanders hockey is it didn't seem like the roster ever changed at all. And we were certainly amongst those saying it doesn't feel like it changed. The results didn't change all that much, but the roster did have changes over the course of time. And they just found guys that fit in seamlessly with the team. And Palmieri is one of those guys. He comes over and it feels like he was always here, and he came over with Travis Zajac, by the way, which is also kind of a funny tidbit now. But I was cool with both of those. And like you said, I mean, the next steps are going to be interesting. He's going to have to learn more about the roster. Again, he's going to be at the draft combine right now, so he's going to be looking at these guys. He'll be back at some point, and he'll, I'm sure they're still talking about who to go. Who should stay, where they can move these guys. The draft is decentralized this year, Friedge, so we don't know. There won't be any deals there, but Elliot Friedman does think that there might be some trades going down at the combine because a lot of executives are going to be there together, which I guess is possible. So we don't know. I mean, again, we started off saying this at the top of the show, and we'll just reiterate here. It's far too early in this man's tenure to write off he's going to be X, Y, or Z. Like, we just don't know. I mean, I'm seeing people being like, this guy's just Lou 2.0. Come on. The guy's been in the job for a week and a half. Like, really? He's already Lou 2.0. He's doing all the same things Lou did. Okay, well, he's a general manager. Lou is a general manager. Like, they do kind of similar things. To me, it's incredible that we're already writing off some of these decisions as disastrous or whatever. And whereas we haven't seen what happens. And honestly, again, like you just said, Pelech, Pulock, Mayfield, a lot of these guys are redundant. A lot of these guys have, long contracts that were signed under Lou Lamoriello. It's not going to be easy to move these guys. It's not going to be easy to, reshape the roster when you've got so many guys locked in. And the Islanders are far from the only team with this exact problem. So who knows what happens from here on out? But I don't think that, Mathieu Darche waited all this time to get himself a actual GM chair in the NHL. He said there's only 32 of these jobs. So I don't think he waited all this time to get one of those 32 jobs just so he can put his feet up and just be like, well, what would Lou have done? Okay, we'll just do that. Like, I don't think that's how it works. I think he wants to put his stamp on the team, and he's just going to have to figure out how. And that's, going to take a while. It's going to take certainly more than a week and a half. So we shall see. We should see how it goes. But I find myself still feeling pretty good after all this. Not great, but good. That's fine. I'm not doing jumping jacks or cartwheels here, but I'm certainly not, stamping my feet and yelling about it either. So there you go. Breaking news, by the way, before we get to our last segment. Congrats to Jesse Nurmi, Islanders prospect and member of the London Knights, on winning the Memorial Cup. So there you go. Just happened now. Thanks to a very loyal listener, Ian, on Blue Sky, who wrote "Fuck Dale Hunter," and I was like, "Boy, that's kind of a weird thing." And I was like, "Oh, right, yeah, the London Knights." So yes, fuck Dale Hunter, but congrats to Jesse Nurmi for winning, and the London Knights for winning the Memorial Cup. That's a big deal. So cool. That's pretty cool. We'll see. This left winger had a pretty good playoffs here. 8 points in 17 games, not too bad. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. So there you go. Speaking of playoffs, we're going to do something now that we have not done all spring long, and that is talk about the NHL playoffs. We've kind of completely ignored the playoffs going on, except for the Leafs, obviously, where we can make fun of them. But we are now down to the Stanley Cup final, and it is, in fact, a rematch of last year's final, the Florida Panthers versus the Edmonton Oilers. The series starts on Wednesday, which is a bunch of bullshit because the Oilers punched their ticket on Thursday. Why we have to wait until Wednesday, I have no idea. It's incredibly stupid. They could have started on Monday, but whatever. But it does give us a chance to take a breath and talk about the Stanley Cup final. I've kind of dove in and out a little bit of the playoffs here and there. I did watch the last few Panthers Hurricanes games, and it was fun watching the Panthers kind of decimate them and break their spirit. I thought I've picked the Stars to win the Stanley Cup for about 10 years in a row. Maybe one of these days I'll be right, but the Oilers this year were just too damn good. And I'm going to throw it right to you. Like, what do you think about this? I know I'll give my pick in a minute, but I know you're obviously going to look at what the bettors and the sharps are saying about this. Do you have a pick either way for how this rematch is going to go?
Yeah, I do. Before I get there, I do want to just reiterate that I would be totally okay with the Florida Panthers raising a Stanley Cup banner and putting it in UBS Arena, because of what they've done for us with eliminating the Leafs twice, the Rangers, and then the Hurricanes. And as you said, they decimated the Hurricanes. But I thought it's so funny that when Carolina got eliminated, it was, oh man, like, at least, they didn't get swept. That's good. And they had such another good season. And when any other team gets eliminated, even in the conference finals, it's a referendum. It's, Peter DeBoer is getting fired. Him and Jake Cottinger are in a fight. And right. The Leafs obviously is a whole different animal. Even when the Rangers got eliminated by the Panthers last year, they need to spend all summer figuring out how to beat these Panthers. And get rid of this guy, get rid of that guy. This guy sucks now, and all that kind of stuff. It was like a disappointing run to the Eastern Conference Final for them, which is hilarious. But that's how it goes for every team except the Hurricanes, because they're Nobel Peace Prize winning poet laureate, general manager who's definitely really good at what he's doing, and didn't almost completely botch the season because he didn't find out that Mikko Rantanen had a no trade clause, didn't want to come to the Hurricanes. Right. He put out a nice tweet saying thank you to the fans afterwards, which was once again groundbreaking stuff that you just never see. You just never see anywhere. And I thought on 32 Thoughts it was funny that when they were introducing the segment where they're parsing through the Hurricanes offseason outlook, Kyle Bukauskas was like, Elliot, it was not a sweep. They won a game. It wasn't a sweep. As if it was like a monumental step in the right direction for this team, that they won their first conference final game in 15 tries or whatever it was. Not embarrassing, guys. Stop saying it's embarrassing.
Right.
Team that just can't get over the hump, but nobody talks about that with them. Thank you to the Panthers once again. That was great. It was amazing the fashion that they did it. Just completely pasted them. It was awesome. And now the Hurricanes go into another offseason where Eric Tulsky and his Lenovo ThinkPad will start making genius. No matter who it signs, it'll be tidy pieces of business, shrewd and genius stuff. Thank you to the Panthers. I think the Panthers will win. I mean, it's just they're the best, man. I know part of it is the favors that they've done us and the fact that Paul Maurice pointed out that the Islanders were so classy in sticking around for Dmitry Kulikov's 1000th game ceremony. That's why they're doing it, right? That's why they keep beating all our rivals because they hey, you come out for Dmitry Kulikov's 1000th game, and we'll pay you back in spades. So I don't know. Like, I'm rooting for them. I also don't want the Canadian thing to happen, like the Canadian team. I used to think I just couldn't care less about it. Yeah. But now that I see how much they care in the media, how many times you heard, I just want to cover Canadian Stanley Cup winner. Well, I hope you never do. Like, so, so like, let's go. Hopefully the Panthers get it done. It's amazing what just putting this jersey on does to a play. Like Brad Marchand, I mean, yeah, he was great to root for against the Leafs, but I've got a really special place in my heart for him. I'm like, we got to get this guy on the Islanders next year. I don't care. I just want him. I want him on the Islanders, but as a mercenary where we can loan him out to the teams that are playing the Rangers or the Leafs on specific nights too. Just on our payroll, but on loan elsewhere.
That'd be funny.
Yeah, an agent for the Islanders. It's just, yeah, they're just so amazing, man. I love that they keep that we get to keep seeing that tweet from Dom Luszczyszyn about how firing Andrew Brunette and hiring Paul Maurice was an all-timer bad decision. And then there's like another one about the Sergei Bobrovsky contract, and then there's another one about the Seth Jones trade. So there's just we owe the Panthers so much, man. We really do. And if they want to say that we kind of cheated a little bit in that 2016 series, I'll take you could give them that series win too. I don't care. Like, just put that one in the record book. We just owe them way too much. So thank you to the Florida Panthers for everything.
Yeah, the Panthers' greatest ability really is in driving Canadian hockey media guys nuts. Like that's what they do best, right? Like they're just completely, whether it's Brad Marchand troll and Matthew Tkachuk trolling the Leafs after they eliminated them, or Paul Maurice talking about the handshake line and how coaches shouldn't be in it, and then Rod Brendamore's got to respond, and then it's a whole thing, and again, like you just said, all the Seth Jones resurgence is like baffling to people. Like, how could Seth Jones be this really good? And, he was only playing with this worst team in the league all those years, and what happened? Now he's playing with the Panthers and he's good. It's like, yeah, that's how it works sometimes. Right. Put a pretty good player in a winning environment, and all of a sudden he plays really well. So the fact that they're driving people absolutely nuts this whole summer is really, really entertaining.
Yeah, they do check their closets before bed up there for the Florida Panthers too. It's like, and the way that they're painted is so funny to me when they're like, you hear on Kipper and Boren, especially from Justin Boren or Sammy, like, what do you expect them to do? You got these guys coming crashing them into the boards. Like, yeah, man, that's how the game is played. I mean, I don't know what did you expect? Like the Florida in their mind, especially when it comes to the Leafs, they just imagine like the Leafs show up to game one of a playoff series and everyone's like, "Well, the Leafs are here." Right. And they roll the red carpet out and there's not another team. It's just like whether the Leafs can win, and there's no other team there. And then the Panthers show up and pulverize them. Like, what? Like, why are you pulverizing us? What is this? And
and the other thing too is like the Panthers have also kind of restarted, or they continue the three debates that drive me absolutely bonkers every year in the playoffs. One is players wanting to play in tax-free states. Like, oh, they don't want to pay taxes. That's why the Panthers are so good, because they got all these players that don't want to pay tax. Okay, great. Two is, they don't call any penalties here in the playoffs, so of course they're going to go away with all that stuff. Look at what Sam Bennett, he's a madman. He's all of a sudden everybody becomes like J. Jonah Jameson from Spider-Man. He's a threat and a menace, this guy, So that's number two. And number three is the playoff seeding. Well, the Leafs had to play a really good team. They didn't get in, they didn't get to play the Capitals or whatever it was. That's just not fair. Anybody making any of these three arguments is just absolutely loser shit. Like, this is like, I'm so over all of these things. Beat the teams in front of you. And if that's the Florida Panthers, well, then guess what? You're going to have to beat the Florida Panthers. Like, I'm sorry. It's not because of the taxes. It's not because of the playoff seeding. It's not because of the refs. You lost. So you got to beat these guys. Like, it's not easy because they're good, but that's who's in front of you. You're just going to have to beat them.
It drives me nuts.
It's absolutely, and of course, it's being driven by a certain mustachioed idiot on the TNT panel who's making this whole big thing. But I will say this. I'm with you. I think the Panthers are going to win the series, and their second consecutive Stanley Cup. However, I cannot lose sight of the fact, and I can't forget about the fact that the Oilers lost. They were down 3-0, came back to tie the series, lost in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final, had to stew on that all year long, have now worked their way back to the Stanley Cup final against the same team that beat them. Something tells me that that's not going to sit well with them. And I'm with you. I feel like the Panthers are probably going to win. But if this was the year for somebody to beat them, I feel like the Oilers might be able to do it because they've been so pissed off for a calendar year about this. Now, that being said, do I trust Stuart Skinner to beat the Panthers in the playoff series? Frankly, no, I do not. Or Calvin Pickard for that matter. So that right there is your big difference. Bobrovsky's been really, really good. And those guys sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. I don't know. But to me, if I'm these guys, I have been pissed off about this for a year. And now the same guys that pissed you off last year at the same exact time are standing right in front of you again. And I feel like that might give the Oilers just enough of an edge to kind of squeak past the Panthers here. It's a little bit like when the Warriors and Cavaliers were doing their thing, years and years ago. The Cavs snuck that one out. So I can kind of see that happening. But that being said, if the Panthers just steamrolled them, I also wouldn't be surprised if that happened. If they just went up 3-0 and then just shut the door on them in Game 4, I could see that happening.
Yeah. Well, it depends on how the Oilers will navigate playing a team that doesn't have a state income tax. That's what really matters here, because that's obviously the superpower here. And,
right. Yeah.
I mean, it is a there's some good drama here. So I'm excited actually to watch, and as I said, like I find the Panthers to be very easy to root for from our side, so I'll be rooting for them, and I will be rooting for them because of it will piss everybody off still. Like it will, as you said, the three narratives there of I mean the Panthers were so bad for so long,
right? Yeah.
And now the thing is, well, if you look back to 2020, there's been a team from a no state income tax in the Stanley Cup final every year. Like, I don't. You're basically what you're saying is the Toronto Maple Leafs aren't allowed into the Stanley Cup final because of the taxes. Like you guys have your own advantages. Like you're Toronto. You have more money than anybody to spend outside the system. So go do it. It's these things always emanate from the same places. Yeah, Toronto and Madison Square Garden, and that's about it, right? Like it's nobody else really. I mean, maybe bother some Islander fans, but I didn't see any Islander fans when we were playing Tampa Bay 2 years in a row be like, man, like how are we supposed to beat this team that isn't paying Nassau County taxes?
Buffalo also had some words about that as well.
Right.
Too. But like the Panthers, the Lightning, the Stars, all of the Kings, if you want to go back that far, all of these teams spent years. Well, I guess the Kings aren't from a no tax state, but like all these teams spent years being absolutely terrible. And nobody said a word. Right. And now all of a sudden they're good. And
because the core four era is smoldering.
Right. Yeah.
That's really it.
Yeah. But believe it or not, James Myrtle, of all people, wrote an article over at The Athletic saying that like these teams just built the right way and nobody was paying attention because they were shitty teams in the Sun Belt and nobody paid any attention to them. And all of a sudden they're really good. Right. And that's not a problem. That's just the way it is. And so
they're just offended that these teams popped up from these non-traditional markets. They don't have the original six patch on their hat. So like, what the hell? And I think that's a great point too, to kind of wrap this one up with Darche and him coming in is the lesson I think to learn isn't that you have to copy the Panthers and build a team that way, or copy the Lightning, or build through the draft like the Avalanche did, or do what the Stars are doing. It's basically that you just need to have a plan. And the Islanders did have a plan for the previous regime, and that was the first time they really had a coherent plan in my lifetime, at least, right? Like the plan from Garth was
don't spend any money.
That
was
exactly.
the plan.
It was like, I think Cal Clutterbuck on a podcast put it perfectly. He was basically like an accountant trying to make sure that they had enough cash to play every night.
Right.
And so like they didn't have a coherent plan. John Tavares showed up one day and they were like, okay, that's the new plan, is that this guy's going to be here. And before that, it was, Ricky was here. So it took forever for them to get a plan. They had a plan, and it didn't get them to the promised land, but it got them, as close as they've gotten in my lifetime. So now I just hope that this guy has a plan. I don't care if it looks like if he's copying the Capitals homework. I don't care if he's copying the Panthers homework. I don't care if he's copying the 1998 Buffalo Sabres and just being like, we'll hope that Ilya Sorokin is Dominik Hasek. Whatever the plan is, like, just have a plan, hope it works, and I guess be ready to adjust. But like if you have a plan, you're way ahead of basically anyone else. So or a lot of the teams, because that's what it is, right? Like a lot of these teams don't have plans, or like they're not coherent, or they don't stick to them or they make it impossible to stick with them because they're paying 4 guys way too much money. So that's my one hope here, is that's the takeaway from the Panthers, is have a plan, execute it, and then hope that it works. But because we had that and it almost worked, but hopefully this one can get us even one win further, and all of a sudden the Islanders are here where the Panthers and Oilers are.
That would be cool, and hopefully that I should say we should allow that plan to materialize before we decide that the plan is garbage.
Yes.
And we'll see what happens. We'll see what Mathieu Darche's plan is. But no, that is a great way to wrap things up. Again, the Stanley Cup final starts on Wednesday, so hopefully everybody enjoys. We'll be back with a new episode of Anxiety on the 16th. There'll be a brand new episode of Weird Islanders on the 13th. Again, we're going to have a free Country Club Atmosphere for the main feed on the 9th. And if something crazy happens, we could jump in at any point and talk about that before then. But otherwise, that's the schedule going forward. We got plenty of stuff coming out this month before we wrap things up for the season. So don't worry, we're not going anywhere for a while here. And again, if something happens, we'll jump in and talk about it. But in the meantime, become a member at patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. Get ad-free episodes, bonus podcasts, the whole 9. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible.com, iHeartRadio, YouTube Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please leave us a review where you can. Our theme song is Morning Haze by Family Dinner. Listen to more of their music on Spotify. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day for your most up-to-date Islanders news and discussion. Islanders Anxiety podcasts are part of the Fans First Sports Network. Shop VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. Mike, where can everybody find you on Twitter?
The Big Lebowski with 2 E's.
Follow Mike at the Big Lebowski. We've had a great discussion here about all the stuff that's been going on with the Islanders. It's nice to have news to talk about for the first time in a while. Any final thoughts, though, before we wrap things up with either on the Stanley Cup final or any of the Mathieu Darche isms that we've already experienced?
No, nothing really. I'm wondering what will be Darche-isms. Lou is obviously a master of the English language, so we'll see what Matthew, whether it's in French or English, throws at us. What will be the buzzwords? I just hope it's not DNA.
Oh no,
we got to figure out. We got to change the DNA.
Real quick, if somebody, we did not do a Master Leaf Theater this time. Again, maybe we'll get one more in before the end of the season, but we needed to give it a break. But if you do want a bit of that feeling, check out the Leafs Report podcast from last week with James Myrtle, Jonas Siegel, and Mark Masters of TSN.
Yes,
if you
Mark
want
Masters,
to hear
the master of letting us know who leads the stretch.
Yes. I'm not going to say too much. You can listen to it for free. It's an athletic podcast, but you can find it for free. And if you want to hear 3 men almost come to blows over whether or not the Leafs should re-sign John Tavares, that is the podcast for you. So highly recommended for your listening pleasure, especially if you're missing a Master Leaf Theater this week. But we will be back in a couple of weeks with a brand new episode of this show. Weird Islanders, a podcast coming out on the 13th. Check out the James Wisniewski episode from last week if you haven't. And we'll talk to you again very soon. All right, take care. Bye-bye.